Okay, hi Gianluca. So let's take a look at this set of essays, going abroad on business trips with your family. Here's what you wrote. Whether people should bring their family along when working abroad or not is a debatable topic, especially in the West. Get rid of this it. You don't need it because this whole thing here is your subject, really. Okay? It's a phrase that acts as a subject, so you don't need this is. The downsides of this include a drop in work efficiency and in children's school performance, yet there are important benefits in terms of personal and family well-being. Lovely. I strongly feel the advantages far outweigh the downsides. Okay. And a person should always travel with his or her beloved ones. We say loved ones, actually, not beloved ones. Okay? This essay, careful, singular, will discuss both sides. Okay. Using examples from the World Bank, the UK government, and the Italian Ministry of, it's usually Ministry of Education, by the way, to demonstrate points and support arguments. Okay, now you saw me kind of pause a bunch of times because I know in your last essay we talked about how to adapt your introduction based on the question. So that's why I kind of stumbled through this. I was trying to see what you were trying to do. And I think that you basically modeled this introduction after the one you did about the benefits outweighing the drawbacks. This is asking you something different. They're asking you, is it positive or is it negative? Okay, so you have to take a specific stance here. It's not an and or, it's an is it this or is it that? And then to what extent do you support it? So I think the best thing you can do in your introduction is to really just address each question. Okay, so is it positive or negative? You said here that you strongly feel the advantages outweigh the downside. So what you could have just said here is that on the whole, I believe it is it has many advantages. Okay. And I believe people should always travel with their loved ones. Okay, so it's just a little bit of a reframing. So think about it like a 2-question essay. So answer both of them in your introduction. All right? And for you, really, it was just a matter of just rephrasing a little bit here. All right, so let's move on. Careful with this, please. It's not on the one hand, it's on the one hand. So on the one hand, there's ample evidence that relatives can be a major cause of distraction, no commas necessary here, because a person tends, with an S, to pay less attention to his or her duties, i.e. S, when accompanied by the family, especially if it happens on a frequent rate. Let's see, not a frequent rate. Change that a little bit, okay? Otherwise, it was lovely, but we have to change this vocabulary here, especially if it happens on a regular basis. Is really the most appropriate expression. In fact, it just kind of rolls off the tongue. That's probably what it should be. Or if it happens frequently, you could have said as well. Okay, but on a regular basis is also a nice kind of collocation to use. All right. So, for example, recent research by the World Bank stated that its employees' efficiency decreases by 16% when a person of the family is present during work trips. In addition, if children are often traveling with their parents, their school performance is gravely affected by frequent absences. Recent evidence indicates that the grades of children who often go on a business trip with their parents are 15% lower than those of their peers whose attendance is regular. Therefore, it is conclusively clear that taking the family along during working trips can be negative both for the worker and the family members. All right, yeah, so you basically decided not to answer the questions here, and you decided to look at this as like a do the benefits outweigh the disadvantages, or, discuss both views and give your opinion. Now, I'm not saying that what you did is wrong. I don't want you to misunderstand me. You could do this, but the fact is that the question here was, is it positive or negative? Okay, so what you could have said is that clearly there are some negatives, especially as far as, where was it? As far as efficiency is concerned, okay? But as far as the family is concerned, this is a development that I support. So Do you see how just reframing this so that it follows the question could have allowed you to write exactly what you wrote here, but then it would make sense, because you could say, okay, yeah, as far as the employer is concerned, it's a negative development. However, I support it because it is better for personal and family well-being. Okay, so you qualify it this way, and it looks like you've directly answered both questions. You can keep your development exactly as you have it, but again, it just requires a little shifting of what you wrote in your introduction, okay? So that you're directly answering this. I mean, think about how we talk to people. When people ask us a question, we have to answer that particular question that they're asking us, right? So that's one way you could do it. So I like what you wrote here. I thought it was a lovely paragraph. Really, it was great. You talked about it here. You talked about the employee efficiency. You talked about how it's negative for schools. So that's another thing you could have talked about in your introduction. You could have said that this is a negative development as far as schools and employers are concerned. Okay? So again, this way you're addressing the question, and being on topic as well. Okay, it's a great paragraph though, but like I said, it doesn't totally fit with what the question asked, and also, here. Actually, what you wrote here really doesn't fit with what the question asked. But let's move on. On the other hand, even if efficiency and efficacy are dominant values nowadays, the importance of emotional bonds must be taken into account. What a lovely sentence. That's nice. Firstly, because relationships are essential for people, and the opportunity to include loved ones, not beloved ones, okay? In the working dimension, such as business trips, this isn't a full sentence, Gianluca. You could have gotten rid of because. So, firstly, relationships are essential for people, and the opportunity to include loved ones in the working dimension. It's actually the working sphere, perhaps. I guess it's all right. Such as business trips can strengthen family bonds. It's your because that's a problem. For example, a recent study by the UK government showed that working couples are less likely to get divorced if they are allowed to travel with their partner for business reasons. Secondly, when children are used, with a D, to travel with their parents for professional reasons, they can easily learn new languages. For example, a recent analysis by the Italian Minister, I think you mean Ministry of Education, I said this earlier, showed that children that often travel to foreign countries with their parents learn other languages 65% faster than their peers. You didn't need to go into a thirdly here. You wrote more than enough. Thirdly, employees who have the opportunity to travel accompanied will not change jobs as to find another that is closer to their family needs. Analysis found that companies that cover the cost of business trips to the entire family reduce employees' turnover rate by 80%. Thus, it is possible to state beyond doubt that the benefits of bringing the family to business travels, it's bringing the family on business travels, must not be underestimated. It's a beautiful paragraph. It's really good. So from the arguments and examples given, I firmly believe that, get rid of this comma, although people should remain focused, not concentrated, focused on their job during work time, the family dimension cannot, this is awkward. How about cannot be superseded by work? Maybe it's a little awkward. I feel like you're translating from your native language here. So be careful with this. I think you mean something different. I think you mean something like, the importance of family cannot be superseded by work. Maybe you mean something like this. And the benefits of having the family during business trips in terms of personal well-being outweigh the drawbacks. Governments should encourage this development with specific policies. All right, that's lovely. So I like everything you wrote. I thought it was really well done. I think, again, I'm going to say it one last time. You just need to make sure that your introduction matches what you write in your body and answers the question. Okay. I have a question for you, Gianluca. When you begin to write, Do you take down notes? Do you brainstorm first and then begin to write? Or do you just kind of, run straight into it and start writing? If you're doing this latter thing, I would advise you not to. I'd like to see that you brainstorm first and you realize, what your positions are and what your ideas are. And then when you get all of your ideas, then you can ask yourself, okay, well, how do my ideas relate to this question or the questions being asked? And then what am I going to say in my introduction? And then what am I going to say? And how am I going to put all these ideas together in my body paragraphs? Okay, so just some suggestions before you begin to write. It's worth doing this if you have not done it yet. Anyway, we've spent a ton of time on your task 2, so I want to go straight into this task 1. This is the one that is challenging for a lot of people. Let's see what you did with it. It's called a line graph, by the way, not a line chart. The line graph above compares the amount of milliliters of rain that fell in England, Scotland, and Wales in 2018. In January, around 110 milliliters of rain were registered in England, but the amount fell under 100 by March, rising again to more than 100 the subsequent month before falling considerably to about 75 in May. After increasing sharply to about 125 in the following months, it fluctuated between 125 and 90 until the end of the period, finishing at about 125. Okay, fine. In Scotland, between January and April, this is awkward. This is like this is like translated English, okay? So be careful. So in Scotland, between January and April, massive oscillations can be seen, okay? Between 130 and 20. The rain that fell, what does this say? Went then. Well, no. You could say fluctuated from, or how about this, even better. The rain that fell ranged from 40 at the beginning of April to 110 in July. And after that, it declined again to under 100 and went up to 130 in October. It then slumped just above 50 ml and finished at about 110 in December. Okay. Rainfall in Wales was about 50 at the beginning of the year, and despite significant fluctuations, the amount followed an increasing trend and reached a peak of 130 at the end of June. It then plummeted under 50 between August and October, when it rose again above 100. The country finished the year with roughly 50 ml of rain. Overall, it can be seen that the rainfall fluctuated massively in each of the 3 countries analyzed with no clear trend. The lowest number of milliliters of rain was registered in February in Scotland, whereas there were 3 peaks of rainfall, 2 in Scotland in March and October, and 1 in Wales in July. Okay. Oh boy. Okay, so, now, there are a handful of things that I want to talk about here. First of all, your answer is 253 words. So my first question to you is, how long did this take you? Okay, remember, you only have about 20 minutes for this, and your length was about the length of a task 2. So immediately I'm feeling like it's just too long. A good place to be here is maybe around 200 words. Okay, but I feel like you overdid it a little bit. So that's the first thing. It was a little too detailed. Number 1. Number 2, your overview started okay, but you really honestly should have stopped here, because when you got to this sentence, it was no longer an overview. It really felt like a detailed paragraph. And look at that, 33 words. So even if you had gotten rid of this, I would have been okay. So that's one thing. The first thing is that, like I said, a lot of details. The second thing is that this should not have belonged here because it was too detailed to be considered an overview. All right. Now, I thought you did a decent job of selecting the most appropriate information. What you didn't really do a great job of was highlighting why you were talking about each of them. Okay, so, I mean, look what you said. Take a look at this. It fell from 40 and then went up to 110 and then to 100 and then to 130. So where was it? There was someplace, here you go. Reached a peak of 130, plummeted to under 50. So you're giving me all these figures, but I think it's just that one area here, this peak of 130, that's the only time you mention the word peak. And there is, I don't think, any time where you actually talk to me about a low. So that information for me was missing. It's like you gave me just tons of numbers, and the numbers you picked were appropriate, but you didn't highlight them effectively. And so it was just like number after number after number. So you also, again, you highlighted, I'm really glad that you did this. You highlighted the beginning of the year. You talked about January a couple of times. You also talked about the end of the year. So I feel like you must have like listened to some of my corrections for this task already, because you definitely picked the right information. You just didn't highlight it appropriately. So for me, let me just give you really, really, really fast, because this is a very long correction. Just some advice about the kinds of things that I would like to see here. So let's say we talk about Scotland. First thing you want to say is that Scotland began the period with the highest figure. Okay, that's important. All right. And it's something that most people don't even bother to talk about. Okay, and then you say it's at 130. It immediately dropped the following month to its lowest point. So mention this is the lowest point. Okay. Only to surge again the following month to one of two peaks at 100 and, I don't know, 30, 140, whatever that is, in March. And again, a similar peak in October. Okay, the rest of the year, or how about this? Between March and October, the year was spent with various fluctuations between, whatever that is, 40 and, I don't know, what's that, 120? Okay, and then Scotland finished the year at just above 100. Okay, so highlighting the information. I'm not really saying anything terribly different than what you did, but I'm highlighting. I'm talking about the highlight. I'm talking about the peaks. I'm talking about the low points, and explaining to my reader why I'm talking about the figures that I'm talking about. Okay, so a lot of nice work here, but there are still things I think that you could really even improve here. Okay. So go ahead, let's see another set from you. I think we have another set from you. I'm pretty sure we do. So I really want to see it, and I want to see you kind of incorporating some of this stuff. If you have any questions or concerns, just jot them down in your email. All right, I'll be waiting for them. So good luck.